Now that you've determined your project qualifies as human subjects research because it meets the criteria of being both research and involving living human subjects, we are going to discuss navigating the steps to obtain IRB approval, beginning with how to choose the correct level of IRB review. If you are not sure if your project qualifies as human subjects research, please go back and watch the first video in this series. To begin, you should know the IRB has three levels of review: exempt, expedited, and full board review. When you submit your proposal through Razor Grant, you can select the type of review that you think your project will qualify for. Upon review of your proposal, the IRB coordinator will make the final determination. Let's begin by looking at exempt categories of research. But don't let the word exempt fool you. Even if your project qualifies for exemption, you still have to submit your protocol for review. Once you submit your protocol, the IRB will identify it as exempt if it qualifies. In other words, researchers may not exempt their own protocols. This must be done through the IRB. Now, let's discuss the 8 categories of exemptions. Category 1 consists of research in established or commonly accepted educational settings, such as a school or university. Category 2, educational tests, surveys, interviews, observations of public behavior out in the public square, for instance. In Category 3, we find benign behavioral interventions in conjunction with the collection of information from adult subjects. That part is critical. Adults, not children. Category 4, secondary research for which consent is not required. Say you collected some biological specimens for one purpose, and now you want to use these same specimens for another purpose, and that purpose doesn't specifically require additional consent. That would be a Category 4 exemption. Category 5, research and demonstration projects conducted by a federal agency or department, such as the FDA or CDC. Category 6 comprises taste and food quality evaluation and consumer acceptance studies. And the last two categories, 7 and 8, have to do with secondary research. These are two new categories that were added as of January 2019. Some of these categories, numbers 2, 3, 7, and 8, although they are exempt, may require a limited review in certain circumstances. And all this means is that somebody on the IRB is going to look through your study protocol and make sure that the data or potential participants are adequately protected. It is not a very involved process. As long as you fall into one of these exempt categories, you should get your exemption determination pretty quickly. The next level of review is expedited review. Protocols involving minimal risk to research subjects may qualify for an expedited review. Most of the protocols that we see at the University of Arkansas, probably 70 to 80% of all projects, qualify for expedited review. These are projects that usually involve surveys or benign behavioral interventions and do not pose much risk to research subjects. If you get your protocol submitted by 5 p.m. on Wednesday and it qualifies for expedited review, it will be distributed for review by Friday of that same week. If you miss the 5 p.m. cutoff, it will go out for review on the following Friday. Protocols that qualify for expedited review will be reviewed by a single IRB member who has to get the response in on your protocol within a week of receiving it. That person can choose to approve your protocol, or, if he or she is not comfortable approving it, may refer it back to the full committee for review. A protocol may not be disapproved through the expedited review process. Once the expedited reviewer notifies the IRB coordinator of his or her determination, the coordinator will get a response to you within a couple of days. We certainly don't want to keep researchers waiting. Protocols can be approved for up to 1 year at a time. This does not mean that you have to finish all your work within 1 year. Protocols may be renewed beyond a year. The federal regulations require the IRB to review a protocol at least annually. So the IRB just issues an approval for 1 year at a time to ensure the protocol gets reviewed in accordance with the federal regulations. If nothing has changed on your protocol during the year, and if you have not identified any new risks or new procedures, the review and renewal should happen fairly quickly. Categories of research that may qualify for expedited level of review include blood collection. That doesn't involve a whole lot of risk. Prospective collection of biological specimens via non invasive procedures. Peeing in a cup, for instance, that's pretty non invasive. Collection of data via non invasive procedures and not involving any kind of sedation or x rays. Some physiological or exercise studies on campus may involve x rays or DEXA scans, which are bone density scans, and those will not qualify for expedited review. They must go to the full IRB. Research involving materials collected for non-research purposes. Now, what this means is if you go to a doctor's appointment and you submit a specimen for a medical diagnostic purpose, and then the investigator on campus is using leftover specimens to conduct a research project, that would qualify for expedited review. Collection of data from voice, video, other kinds of recordings, all these are pretty low risk. Individual or group characteristics or behavior, behavioral observations of people, there's not very much risk associated with that. Continuing review of research previously approved by the IRB. Let's say you have a research protocol that was approved by the full committee for a year, and now you need to renew it for another year. If there have been no significant changes to your protocol, no new risks identified, and no adverse events, the renewal can go through the expedited review process. Last, continuing review of research which involves minimal risk and no new risks have been identified in the past year. Now let's move to the final level, the full board review. Projects that do not qualify for exemption or an expedited review need to go to the full IRB. These meetings are held at MLKG at the corner of Razorback Road and MLK. IRB meetings are held once a month. Protocols must be received at least 7 calendar days prior to the meeting. The date for the next meeting can be found on the Research Compliance website. Researchers are encouraged to attend the meeting to present an overview of the protocol. We ask that the principal investigator be the one to come and present his or her protocol and answer any questions that the IRB members may have. It is easier for IRB members to get answers to their questions face-to-face rather than going back and forth via email. Again, protocols may be approved for a maximum of 1 year at a time.